Hey, YouTube world, we are back. Hope you are having a good Monday so far. Before I start today's episode, I'd just like to acknowledge the ongoing fights for racial injustice, ending systemic racism in America, and continuing the fight. I was out there yesterday. I hope I did my part and committed my time to a cause that I find to be very noble and a very important conversation in America. So I want to put that out there before we begin so that I can talk about J.R. Smith, because, oh man, when you see the headline of J.R. Smith caught on video, it's usually J.R. Smith sightings are very rare now, so this is just a thing that is kind of going on in America at this point. It's like we don't see much of J.R. Smith much anymore, but when you see a headline that talks about J.R. Smith beats the crap out of a guy for breaking his car window, honestly, like, I've been waiting for months, or like a month, for a big sports headline that's not just, when will baseball labor negotiations finish, and, you know, what are the Giants going to look like next year? I've been looking for something to talk about, and even Rob Gronkowski joining the Bucks was like kind of what I was looking for, but J.R. Smith beating up a dude for breaking his car window during a protest is one of the greatest headlines I think that could ever be gifted to me. I could talk about this for so long, which is why I'm going to do it right now. First of all, if you're a guy who has just busted a guy's car windshield and you're riding, I don't know if this is someone from out of state coming into Los Angeles, is this someone who's part of a radical left group? Is this someone who's part of the movement? Not the Black Lives Matter one, the other movement. If you know, you know. And if you have just broken a window and you see J.R. Smith running at you, is your first reaction fear or is your first reaction confusion? When J.R. Smith knocks you to the ground and you're getting kicked in by J.R. Smith, it is understandably a very confusing moment. Understandably, you're like kind of fearing a little bit, but are you laughing a little bit at the same time? I think if I knew that were J.R. Smith, I'd be laughing a little bit. And then J.R. Smith gets one final shot on the dude's face as he's parting. It's like, okay, I am gonna run away now, but this is a story that is gonna last forever and last a lifetime for me. Do you feel bad if you got beat up by J.R. Smith and that's gonna be your legacy? Is that a good thing or a bad thing? If you watch the full TMZ video, first of all, TMZ getting access to that video is a pure TMZ moment. If I have footage of that video, I think the first thing I'm doing is sending it to TMZ. I think there's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. I think that if I have that video, first thing I'm doing is obviously posting it to my own socials. Then second thing I'm doing is sending that immediately to TMZ for $200,000. That's like a once-in-a-lifetime moment. If you're watching the full video, and sorry I'm speaking very fast, this just gets me so excited talking about J.R. Smith. If you're watching that video, and the full video has a guy that talks about respecting his privacy, what is their privacy about? It's J.R. Smith in the middle of the street beating up a dude. I think that should be public record. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Like, that needs to be public record. J.R. Smith beating up a man in the middle of the streets for breaking his car window. Well, I think the way they described it was beat the crap out of a guy, but still, same point. Case in point, we still get that. So respecting JR's privacy, fascinating. What are the odds that this exact incident happens on the 2-year anniversary, to the day, of J.R. Smith's infamous running out the clock in Game 1 of the NBA Finals? What are the chances of that happening? Like, J.R. Smith is known as a knucklehead. Like, his entire career, he's known as a guy that he's going to shoot it 8 times a game, and if he goes 0 for 8, he's going to shoot it 8 more times. I think Swaggy P was the one who said, like, I'd rather go 0 for 20 than go 0 for 4, because if I go 0 for 4, I lost my confidence. That's kind of the same idea of J.R. Smith. I'm just going to keep shooting over and over and over until these shots start falling. So there's that side of it. J.R. Smith is known as a knucklehead. He disappeared for basically a year and a half. I don't know if you guys watch Katie Nolan on ESPN, but they literally did an episode where they tried to go find J.R. Smith. I know my uncle told me that he was coming back from a sailing event and saw J.R. Smith at an airport, or was like standing behind J.R. Smith at an airport, which is the best J.R. Smith sighting that I guess has gone on in the last 2 years or so. Dude just basically vanished. They were just like, well, we can't trade you, but we don't want to pay you the full money, so just see ya. Just don't come into the facility, I guess. That was kind of their mantra. Let's just move on from that whole era. Let's not forget that LeBron James, who had been hanging out with J.R. Smith the entire weekend, was the dude who got J.R. Smith paid on the Cleveland Cavs after that championship, because he got all of his homies paid. When you talk about Tristan Thompson and J.R. Smith and Kyle Korver, he got all his dudes paid following that championship. Iman Shumpert was another one in there. So all those dudes get paid by the Cavs, and then LeBron just says, see ya, after a couple years, and leaves that roster in total sham, in just total ruins. And then they still have J.R. Smith on payroll, and that's amazing in and of itself. But then basically J.R. Smith has this magical moment that we will remember him for the rest of his career. Sure, he did a lot of stupid stuff before, but the fact that J.R. Smith ran out the clock in the NBA Finals is just a picturesque moment that we can remember for the rest of J.R.'s career. And then 2 years later, he reappears beating up a guy for breaking his car window when we hadn't heard from him in a year and a half. We had heard from him earlier in the weekend because he was out protesting with LeBron and Anthony Davis and all the Clutch Sports dudes. But he reappears beating up a guy for beating the crap out of a guy, the official term, beating the crap out of a guy who broke his car window, and having it on video. It's honestly one of the greatest stories that I've ever seen. I know everything that's going on with, like, you shouldn't beat someone up and the movement is more important than that, but I cannot ignore a J.R. Smith headline that gives me 8 minutes of content on a Monday when we haven't had sports in 11 weeks. I just cannot ignore a headline that gives me that much content, and it's just amazing. I mean, I gave you like a minute on each of those 6 details, but I could go into like 5 minutes. I could do a comedy routine on each of those 6 things for 5 minutes long. I could do 30 minutes of stand-up comedy just on this J.R. Smith story. It is amazing. It's not even like I'm a good stand-up comic. Like, I could just do this because it's that easy to make jokes about J.R. Smith. I'll give you one right now. J.R. Smith shows up and sees his car window getting busted in. Is his first reaction to fight? And for the other guy, is your first... Usually in these situations, you go fight, flight, or freeze. This guy is thinking to himself, do I run? Do I fight back, or do I just freeze because I'm so confused and trying to process the fact that I'm getting beat up by J.R. Smith right now? It's an amazing, amazing story. Just crank out 9 minutes of material on J.R. Smith. It's unbelievable.